Hello and welcome to Gauntlet Sunday. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and we are playing Have a Familiar Ring, which is a story game from Sword Queen Games. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes. And this is part of the Your Move Jam, which was a game jam where essentially they asked that you write a game around having only one PBTA style move, one thing. And so this is a game about a magic user and some familiars. That is the very loose structure of it. And we're going to define all of these things here in a second. And I'll go through our CATS overview document at that point. Before I do, I'll mention that this is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts, which is an online gaming group, gaming community that has a calendar app to support play for indie, OSR, and story games. You can find out more about that at gauntlet-rpg.com. So this is Have a Familiar Ring. This is a lovely little light game, and it is as I said, a short story game with shared collaborative play and a single diced move. So that's sort of the concept. Our approach is that we will find out who is our magic user. We'll find out who are our familiars. We'll do world building a little bit, just kind of talk through that. Then we'll kind of develop who the magic user is. Then we'll develop each of the familiars. We'll take a break, and then we're going to roll into play. And I'm going to act as kind of traffic a guide and director through this. All of that means that I would normally talk about tone here at this point, but we're going to talk about tone in kind of the world building thing here in just a minute, what exactly we want from that. With that in mind, we have a set of safety tools that we're using. My go-to is the X card, which means you can say X card, you can gesture it, you can do it in the chat. If we hit material that you find objectionable, problematic, wildly off tone, any of those things are fair game for that. It's not the most discriminating tool, but it is a good one for stopping things as we need to, and we can move past it, retcon whatever we need to do that, no questions asked. Then the other tool that we're using are lines and veils, and that means that we have a set of things in terms of lines that are things that we're not going to have in the story. These are items or ideas like torture that we're not going to have as an element in it, or veils, things which we're going to fade to black if we hit those elements. For those at home, I'll tell you what we're doing is we've got a character keeper, and we have a kind of a checklist. Players throughout this first part can, before we actually get to play, can tick any of those lines and veils, and we'll go through those things. We also have the open door, meaning that if you need to step away from the table for whatever reason, that is absolutely legit on that. So those are our safety tools that we have in play here. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase the text here. So we've gathered to tell a story. It's an old story. We can decide what kind of story that is going to be. It is a shared story between all of us. Storytellers are we all, as we recall with great ritual and delight, a magic user and their familiars. And so what I'd like to start with is who thinks that they would be interested in being the magic user. It's not that the magic user necessarily has more time on the spotlight, but they have a slightly different frame for their story, and they may guide a little more the tale. Does anyone have a strong feeling on that? No one has a strong feeling on that. I knew that was going to be the case. That is always the case with these things. let's see how should we decide this? Should we muddle through? Should we roll? Suggestions on that?
Well, I have the strong feeling that I would rather play familiar, if that's okay. So maybe somebody else would say I'd rather play this, or maybe I would play this, but not necessarily.
Okay. So anyone, Sherry, are you either way on this?
I can do either way. So yes.
So if I were to say, why don't you be the magic user, you would not hate me for the rest of the day?
No, I would not hate you for the rest of the day.
All right. Well, then, in the interest of directing traffic, I'm going to have you be the magic user here.
All right.
So what we're going to talk about here now is tone, and this also means in terms of touchstones and things like that. The examples, are we talking about Harry Potter magic here? Are we talking about Merlin, the TV series? Are we talking about anime magic? Are we talking about grounded? What do you think in terms of what magic can do here? Suggestions? Would you like it big, epic scale, but restrained like Gandalf, or a more light-handed magic there? Any thoughts, anyone? Scott, what do you think, since we haven't heard from you yet?
I'd like something a little bit more lighthearted.
Okay.
Oh,
that's okay.
My bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, in terms of tone, I'm on board with that. But in terms of the magic, I wrote it out. It's kind of influencing magic, so it can influence the real world, but it's not flashy.
Okay. So not flashy, but kind of changes things, affects things.
More like you see in an urban fantasy, not the Jim Butcher kind, but like a Charles Dellent style book, where it can definitely influence the world, but isn't wow.
Shifting contracts, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, we have two Scots. I spell mine with one T, so if you just pronounce it properly, I think we'll know who's who.
If I just use my name,
I will call him Puckett or Pixagon. Any other thoughts on what that magic should look like? That gives us a scale. So we'll figure out as we go through now and talk about the world. Let's move to that. So this is all sort of loose. We're going to talk about the world and what we're imagining. We're first going to kind of imagine what the world is, what the magic is, and then what the relationship between magic and the familiar is. And so the first question we're going to ask about this world is, what is it? Is it a modern day world? Is it in familiar mundane? Is it alien and different? Is it another planet entirely? Is it a mirror with a key difference? Is it ancient and mystical? What is exciting to you? What thoughts do you have about what you would like to see? Sabine, what do you think?
I'd like our world, but maybe a bit historical, like Charles Dickens or 80s or whatever, but not the whole high-tech world we are in now. So
okay, our world, but historical. Okay, I like that. Sherry, if you were to pick a historical period, do you have a one or two that you'd lean toward that we can put on the table?
Well, I know the 80s pretty well. And yeah, actually, I kind of like that sort of near historical.
Okay.
That gives us some things that we can toss easily.
And how close these are going to be some open questions here. How close do you think it is to the 80s that what we know is magic? Is the world changed by that, or is it very much? It looks like the 80s as we know it.
So So I think that what it has to be is that up until this point, it's like really about to the 80s that things have looked the same, and it's at the 80s where it starts to diverge.
Okay.
And I think that this is a period where the mages recognize that things are changing so fast that they have to make some changes. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Anyone else thoughts on that background world setting? Hey.
Just to make sure I understand,
yeah.
sorry, what you're getting at. So up through about the end of the 70s, it's the same timeline that we know, but because of the rate of technological change, cultural change, et cetera, from the 60s and 70s, the mages say around 1979, 1980, all right, we need to adjust things because they're moving in a direction we don't like. Things are, the rate of change is accelerating too much.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Maybe magic has to rise in response to Thatcher and Reagan. So
That's actually kind of what I was thinking about. They recognize the danger of
that period. All right. And we can add on to that, expand on that a bit. So our magic, the magic that is being used is, and here are the examples that are in the book: secret and illegal, hazardous to us or others, rejuvenating and healing, ancient and ritualized, difficult and unwieldy, ancestral and holy, for precious few, shared by many, coveted and tightly regulated, wild and elemental, or something else. And we choose one or two of those things. Scott, what do you think? Is there one of those that sings to you?
Well, what was the first one again? That was something hidden and illegal?
Secret and illegal.
Secret and illegal. That would imply the world knows about us. That might, if we're going for a more silly tone, that might be harder.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last one was the elemental one.
Wild and elemental.
I like that.
So we've got this magic that can shift the world. It's not overly dramatic, but it can be wild. It can get out of hand, and it draws on the elements.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say about that magic, about what it does, or I mean, how it is known? Is it lots of mages? Is it a few mages? That kind of thing.
Let's see here. I think that it's territorial, if that makes any sense. That inherently to be a magic user means that you could be the only one in your area. And that is determined by the land where you are.
I like that a lot.
Are there conflicts over that, or do you imagine that that's kind of a set thing?
That's kind of a set thing. And in the sense that let's say there can be conflicts between two neighboring elemental mages, but if they do, then like all of the borders reconfigure if one of them is ended.
Okay.
So then
that would be kind of like Wales and Cornwall and England would have had separate mages, but then as England took the other two over.
Yeah, but it didn't all go to England. They only got like a portion of it.
Right.
The other mages surrounding it got other parts and then if someone else popped up, it may have reconfigured.
Sure.
Do you imagine that scale? Oh,
sorry.
Sabine.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the same question about the scales. Is it a country or a city or a village?
Yeah, I think it's more like like
counties or districts?
Yeah, more like a township almost. I mean, smaller than a county. Well, and that's my sense of county, of American counties, which can be pretty huge out in the rural areas and tiny in urban. So maybe
But definitely
city is a good way.
you could walk the perimeter in a couple of days.
In a
kind
couple of
thing.
days, yeah.
Okay.
And then
That-
my question was, what kind of succession plan do you think there is?
Um,
I mean, is it hereditary? Is it kind of the mage taking on a tutor or a 2D?
That's a good question. Let's see, what would be most interesting?
I like the idea of a mentee because then they, it's potentially somebody who has different ideas about how active the mage should be, and maybe that's been some of the cause of the the shift in attitudes among the magic community. Is there's been some mentees who grew up who maybe were more directly influenced by the 60s and 70s before they started mentoring. Who knows?
Yeah, if you've got someone in the 80s, or picked this up in the 70s and 80s, and their mentee is more in a World War II, post World War II mindset about things, that's the thing. I like that. So let's keep that in mind. So what is the relationship and connection between the magic user and the familiar? Is it something beyond our understanding? Is it very normal that magicians, magic users have familiars? Is it rare and sought after? Is it a huge ritual that you have to go through? Is it a thing that's required, that mages have to have familiars? Is it a new thing that familiars have arisen? Are familiars inspired by music and song? I love that little idea there. Does it require specific tools and machinery, or something else? Anything sing to anybody in that idea about what is the connection? How do they relate? How has this come about with familiars and mages? Puckett?
I mean, if this mage has 3 familiars, it seems like they wouldn't be particularly rare.
Okay.
Unless this mage is really a standout or focusing on familiars.
So not necessarily rare that we have familiars. So mages can have multiple of them. I'm going to say mages because mage is the ascension, of course, is in my head now at this point. Mages can have multiple of them. It's not entirely rare, but what else do we want to say about how they come about, or what the relationship is between them, the connection there?
I have this idea because we said that there is a sort of the land is tied to the mage, so maybe they arise from different land features,
Ooh.
familiars, and maybe called out of them with song and music, because I like that as well.
Tied to land features. Called with song.
Wouldn't it also need to be affected by what is in the region? I mean, I have this idea of playing a talking cat familiar, but depending on the region, that might not actually be practical. It might be more of like a talking gecko or something.
So do you think that are necessarily native to the region, or not necessarily native to the region? That the land can take different forms. What do you think?
I think they don't necessarily have to be native to the region, but they have to be tied to something. I mean, you can't totally have a cat that jumped down from a tree and is somehow still tied to that tree in a way.
So they're connected to the land. They're probably connected, given this that we're talking about very specific geographical space. They're tied to particular places, particular locations. particular animistic things?
The shape might depend on the song that calls them. So if it's a very glamorous song, it would probably be a very glamorous animal that you call out of I don't know, a rock. Or if you just sing a work song, that might be a plow horse or something.
In that case, when you determine your familiars, I think everybody's gonna have to choose what song they were summoned with.
Oh, and it's the 80s.
Yep.
Uh,
Which does mean that Cats the Musical is out by this point.
You are a very bad man.
I know. Anything else we want to say about the world before we turn to individual features of it? Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have the magic user come to life. And these are choices that the magic user will make, but we can all give input, suggestions, that kind of thing. And if we need to establish anything else, we can do that in this part. So the examples that they give, they're going to ask 3 questions. You are a, and then your magic is, and then your goal as a magic user. Those are going to be the 3 things that we're going to look at here. So I'll give you the examples because these are wonderful, colorful examples. This is something that Jamie does very well. So you are a witch of earth and green, warlock of pact and secrets, wizard of study and intrigue, shaman of spirit and battle, priest of faith and duty, necromancer of flesh and bone, angel of light and color, demon of whisper and shadow. So you are a X of something. What do you think your 1980s magic user is? And boy, girl, non-binary, age?
Oh, that's a good one. So I think it almost makes sense to be, she's a little too old to be one of the cool kids. So I'm going to put her in like her mid-30s.
Okay. And she's a blank of blank.
Yeah. In some ways, I want to ask them, what is the place that we're at? Because that's going to, like, what kind of region have we chosen? So
Thoughts on that? Are we in continental Europe? Are we in England? Are we in the US? Are we in one of the Southeast Asian places? What do you think?
Well, since we're in the 80s and the politics of that time is an issue, so I think it would have to be either Thatcher's Shire or the US Reagan home or something like that.
okay. Well, then, let's see here. The real warfare then was pretty much the gutting of the economy. So essentially the prep for financialization of everything. So I think we almost have to choose a place where we're in that area where it's a middling sized Midwest town that's going to see all of it's going to go full Rust Belt here. So essentially it's in that thing where it's got its factories. Those are, the factories are being rebuilt by the corporation down in the South where the workers are less expensive and not in a union. And everything has been bought out and their pension plans are being turned into cash for the executives. So yeah, where there's no safety restrictions. And so
Okay.
essentially we're in a place that is last gasping, they're the first ones to get kicked in the teeth.
Within the context of that, what are you?
Let's see here. I think I want to be a practitioner of promises and contracts. Like, essentially, person who writes bonds.
So it's magic that is a little more subtle. We've said hard to necessarily see, but if the contracts and promises aren't written well, things can get out of control. That's the wild of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And mind you, in the Midwest, it is essentially there'll be factories and stuff, and then a mile out, it's all farmland. So it's all very patchworky. The urban is just very spot and island with big highways in between everything else.
So is your magic, and we know that you've learned from a mentor, is it passed down through the generations, a curse placed on those like you, something earned through hard work, a responsibility you never asked for, sudden and unexpected, given as a gift for generous act, innate and natural, or something else?
I think it's passed down by generations, but it's still, you have to train for it. But because you got a mentor, right?
Right.
So
How long do you think it takes to learn this? Is it a constant thing? Is it a year? Is it a few months? I mean,
it's a good question. I think that what it is that when you join your mentor, they begin the process of teaching you, but also what they're doing is they will, depending on how much time they have left, they will do different things to speed the transfer. So, for instance, when she started, her mentor had given her, her familiars. And so the first familiars, so her mentor was a female too, and they gave her their familiars in order to speed the transition. And so that's why it was not until later that she found her own.
so there is a transition in those familiars.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last question for the magic user before we come to each of the familiars.
Okay.
Yeah. Wipe. Whew. What is your goal as a magic user? To bring about the rebirth of magic, to change the relationship between familiars and magic, to stop the clock and stall the apocalypse, to go about mundane tasks, to fulfill a promise to someone beloved, to make a dream come true, or something else?
I think it has to be to fulfill a promise. Because, yeah, I think that makes sense.
What kind of promise?
Let's see here. I think if anyone else has an idea for a good promise, I will take it. But I think that is essentially how you get bound into this job then effectively. It's when you agree to take on this then.
So it's a promise to the previous, to the mentor? Who is the promise made to?
I know that's the question, right? So,
Anyone else have some thoughts?
Might be that something more global, like the promise to protect your area from undue influence, or should it be something more of a drive, like I promised my mentor that I would see that Walmart gets no toehold in this country, or yeah, whatever, something like that.
So to the land versus to a person, that's the key difference there.
yeah, maybe to the land makes a lot of sense since you are tied to it.
And since we know that the land does kind of animate in some ways. All right, we will, as we need to, we can add in more details about the magic user, about who they are. We will then go and we will now ask the questions about the familiar. And again, there are going to be 3 major questions, and they'll have some options for those. Does anyone like, oh, I need to go first? That'll never happen in my lifetime.
I have an idea.
But then we're going to have you go first then.
Yeah, thank you.
The-
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
tell us, and then we'll walk through some of the questions here.
it might be a little bit silly, but I'm really inspired by the name of our dice room. I'm sorry. It's called The Wrongly Amused Lionfish, and I would like to have a flying lionfish that was called out of a lake by the song 99 Red Balloons, because that's a song about peace, and at least the 80s were a time of Cold War. So it actually is a song about a very warmongery people shooting at red balloons and thereby causing World War III.
I think that I love that. I remember on MTV they would play both the English and the German version of that. So we have this lionfish. So with this lionfish, well, do you have a name for the lionfish?
I think the lionfish is called, because I am lazy today, it's called Nina.
Nina?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that's a she. He's a she.
Okay.
Or she, whatever. Yeah, Nina is a she, and she's a lionfish.
Okay.
She has a different name, but only the mage knows it.
Oh, okay. Only the mage knows true name.
Yeah.
So you've served the magic user, and here are the examples that they give. To great comedic effect, with reverence and respect, out of a sense of duty, part of a well-written contract, out of love for someone else, as a means to an end, with sincere contentment, well enough, but always with an eye on the real prize or something else. What is Nina's attitude to the magic user there?
I think what Nina's is kind of optimistic hope for the better.
Okay.
Even though things might be bleak, but Nina thinks the mage will bring about a better day. And she's there to inspire her and sing her happy songs, so she will not be sad.
So our lionfish Nina is working to push our magic user to be better there. The next thing is there's a ring there, and it is a literal thing that binds you to the magic user. So we ask what it looks like, and they have it tarnished and greatly cursed, perfect, delicate, and intricate, poorly made but lovingly worn down, cheap to the naked eye but bearing a mark of greatness, mysterious and bearing black magic, ever-changing and effervescent, of great historical value, invisible to all but a select few, or something else that embodies who you are and your potential.
I don't know, really. I mean, that sounds like Sherry, do you have an idea for what that looks like? Some kind of natural coloring?
Well, I like the idea that, like, in the decade before, mood rings had been a big thing. And like, if it looks like a mood ring that had been in the water for a long time, but like the mood ring gem still really works well.
Oh, nice.
What do you
yes.
think? That's got a kind of magic of enduring that shouldn't endure.
Yeah, I like that. I like a mood ring.
And then what is your goal as a familiar? Is it to break the bond between you and your magic user, to deepen the bonds and find their true potential, to fall in love for the first time, to settle an old score, to convince that vengeance is the answer, to discard an old curse, fulfill an ancient prophecy, or something else? What is the goal that will push our narrative forward?
I think the goal is that Nina wants people to be more aware of what they're doing and that it has consequences.
Aware.
That they shouldn't act from fear. Yeah, I think that's the better one. They shouldn't act from fear. They should have something better.
And then hoping that your magic user also follows that advice.
Yes, please, dear magic user, don't be afraid. Fear leads to the dark side.
So let's do the next familiar. Puckett or Scott, either of you feel like you've got an idea off the top of your head? I see that Puckett has typed in a name. Should we move forward from that, Pixagon?
Oh, why not?
Okay. So tell us what Pixagon is like, and then we'll ask about your service, your ring, and your goal.
Pixagon is a willful orange tabby, prone to nipping if he is not fed on a very particular schedule.
And do you know what song was used to summon your tabby?
Have we decided exactly what year this is, or is this just sort of vaguely defined as the 80s?
I think it's been vaguely defined as the 80s.
Okay.
We know it's after 99 Luft's Balloons is coming out, so.
Okay. I'm just going to go with something kind of simple here.
Okay.
Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run.
I like it. That's particularly evocative.
Well, it feels pretty Midwest, even though Springsteen was from Jersey, because it's either that or
Right.
a Midwest hardcore band.
Your tabby, huge tabby, big tabby, small tabby?
I think he is a slightly larger than average
Okay.
cat. And by slightly larger than average, I'm thinking average is somewhere between 10 and 12 pounds. And he's more like 13, 14.
Okay.
Muscular, walks around, knows his territory. Not a jerk about it.
So you've served the familiar, served the magic user, and they have the examples to comedic effect, reverence, sense of duty, well-written contract, love for someone else, sincere contentment, well enough, but an eye on the real prize. What is the way, the sort of the tone of your service to the magic user?
I'm not sure that reverence is quite the right word, but I think it's definitely respect for what the magic user is doing and how the magic user is doing it.
So is it more respect for the role, or respect both for the role and how they are actually carrying it out?
Yes, the latter.
Okay.
more specifically.
So while you might be willful, you have respect for that.
That's one of the reasons why I've chosen to do this.
And what does the ring look like that binds you to the magic user? Tarnished, delicate, cheap, invisible, ever-changing, mysterious. What do you think it looks like?
Was it cheap but lovingly worn down? Was that one of them? I recall that loving it like that worn down but loving.
Poorly made but lovingly worn down.
That's it.
Okay. Like what did it used to look like before it got worn down?
Kind of thing you'd get out of a quarter machine at a grocery store.
Okay.
As you're walking out and kids are screaming for their parents to buy them a bouncy ball or whatnot. And it's worn on the tail because, well, what, I'm going to put it on a toe.
Right. And what is your goal as a familiar? To break the bond between you and the magic user, to deepen the bonds, to fall in love, to settle an old score, to convince that vengeance is the answer, discard an old curse, fulfill an ancient prophecy, something else?
I think Pixagon is an alley cat because a factory closure forced the family to move and Pixagon got left behind. So I think I'd like to push the magic user to how to put this, to see that the people who are profiting from this have a reckoning. So not quite sure that that's vengeance because I think it's something more like justice.
Okay. So you're the voice in the head that's pushing for that justice to be meted out. Okay. Then let's come to our third familiar. Scott, what is your familiar's name?
My familiar's name is Skip.
Skip? And what are they?
Skip is a raccoon.
Big raccoon, little raccoon, old raccoon, young raccoon?
I'd say like a slightly larger than a house cat.
Okay.
So a mid-sized raccoon. Having stared at a large raccoon in my chimney once,
Yep.
and it's big they can be.
Skip, pronouns?
Skip is a he.
Okay. And tell us then how you've served the magic user.
Okay, sure. So first, Skip's totem song is Because of the Night, the Patti Smith version, of course,
Okay.
the one true version of the song. Not to speak ill of the boss, his version is quite good, but hers is not much better. And the only thing I have kind of in my mind right now is that my goal is to fall in love.
Okay.
Because of course the night belongs to lovers.
Goal is to fall in love. In your service that you've had so far, with that goal in mind, how have you served them? Is it out of duty? Is it bound by a contract? Is it out of love for someone else? Is it a means to an end? Sincere contentment? You have an alternate goal? What do you think?
I think it's out of duty.
Is that duty coming from the magic or duty, based on things that have happened?
I think our magic user's named yet?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
hear shit.
Oh, gosh, Sherry, what is the magic user's name?
That's a fine question. I think that this is. I think it has to be like a super, like those 80s names that were the last of their kind because they'd stopped them in the 70s. Monica. So,
Okay.
Nice.
All right. So our magic user's name is Monica. So how have you served the magic user? Is there that duty? Is you think it's something that Monica did, or is it as a response to the magic?
Monica rescued my litter that I was born with. I guess likely from the first steps of urban sprawl since we're in the 80s.
And what does the ring look like that binds you to Monica?
What was the second one? I think that's the one I really liked.
So it's tarnished and greatly cursed, perfect, delicate, and intricate, poorly made but lovingly worn down, cheap to the naked eye but bearing a mark of greatness, mysterious and bearing black magic, ever-changing and effervescent, of great historical value, invisible to all but a select few.
Yeah, I think the second one.
So perfect, delicate, and intricate.
Yeah.
So what does it actually look like?
I think it looks like it's like a I guess it's it looks to be silver or white gold, and looks like entwined branches coming together with a leaf motif in the middle.
Is it on your little paw?
Yeah, actually a bracelet's really nice. I like that
Okay.
idea of a ring, but bracelet is perfect. It is the 80s.
Right. All right. That gives us a sense of who our magic users are, and who our familiars are. We're going to take about a 10-minute break here. When we come back, we're going to roll through the story here. Okay?
All right, great.
Great.
That means this clock is going to go off in a minute. So many clocks going off in this house.
I was wondering, I was like, is that an actual bird?
The bird clock has got different birds on every hour. And then, of course, there's the grandfather clock, which isn't so bad at games like, well, this will be, yeah, this is when it's really bad. It just keeps going and going and going.
All right, and Sherry has a picture, so I'm going to copy that.
Sorry, I have to have the picture to make it work for me.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a little from the text of how the play works. And I'm going to talk about the move that the game has. And then I'm going to go against my GM instincts and do the open question to the table. So that's how that's going to work. So this is a story you'll all tell together. Take your time if you like. Rush in if you want, but make sure you hold space for each other. It's a story you're all sharing. Some of them may be happy enough to be quiet mostly, to observe, speak when they want. Some may need to be invited to speak, despite deeply wanting to. Some may need to remember when to quiet down a little so others can share the space. But we trust that everybody can take care of each other and be kind and be fun. Enjoy describing stuff. Clarify symbols and inspirations. If there's something that you think is meaningful, reach into it. Pull that. Tell us what you're drawing from. And you can shift. You can tell the story whether you want to do it third person or first person. Act it out. We can switch between those. It isn't necessarily a PC mode. You can describe it in a more meta way. And don't forget our safety tools. And right now, just to remind everybody, we have one line on the table, which is sexual assault, and we have one veil, which is torture. If others need to be added, you can add those in as you wish. So we're going to go this kind of open story play. At some point, you're going to use your magic. All of you have magic. And we'll kind of figure out what the connection is between the familiar and the mage. Go after what you want. When you call on magic to do something, it's going to ask for a price. It always does. And that is the move that we have. So when you use magic, when magic asks for a price, we're going to turn to each other and we're going to answer these questions. For every yes answer, we're going to add one to our roll. And here are the questions. Is the magic used for the greater good? Are the magic user and familiars acting in harmony? Does this serve the goal of the magic user? Does it serve the goal of a familiar? And on a 10 plus, the bond sings and no price is required. And then the magic is cast as you wish, and then some. And there's some choices there. On a 7 to 9, it falters for a little bit and a price is demanded. So there's a complication. And on a 6 or lower, your bond strains and comes close to breaking, and it's cast but to disastrous effect. So those are our possible results there. And we can kind of figure out when that move triggers there. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to kind of open it up. I'm going to ask the magic user question to kind of set up, and maybe I might ask a couple more questions. But otherwise, as I said, against my GM instinct, I'm going to try and be quiet and listen and answer things as we need to. If things need to get shifted, we'll do that. So let me ask you this, Monica. Where does the story open?
I think that it opens up on Schaefer's Pond, which is sort of a very popular, it's called a pond, but it's actually probably a lake. It has a lot of springs stuff inside of it, and it goes on for quite a ways, but it sort of tangles around. Any one part of it that you can see looks like just pond size, but it has lots of fingers to it. And Monica is out by the pond, and she has her high heels, and she's sort of slowly picking her way around it. It's very muddy. She's not doing that great with the walking, but she's very determined that she's going to get to there's a sort of you get out of the parking lot, you go around a ways, and if you follow the shore, there's a little bridge that you can pick up to get further into the woods pond finger part of it where there's water all over. So she's making her way there, I think.
And I'll just ask one more question, and other players can feel free to ask questions, which is, why are you there?
Oh, because there was an announcement in the newspaper that essentially a company was looking to acquire this from the city because it's a city park. And so she is out here to, how should we say the promises that were made and to see what she needs to do to keep those and to keep this place out of private ownership. So this is her coming to understand the lay of the land here. So I think what she's doing is trying to make her way in. Now here's my question is, do the familiars always look like themselves, or do they manifest as people? Do they?
I would think that Nina doesn't manifest as herself because a flying lionfish is a bit on the nose. We said that the magic was subtle. So I think she might manifest as some sort of balloon. That's what people can see. It's a balloon that's floating around.
All right. Okay.
If that's okay. But I also like the idea that we manifest as kind of people.
I would love that. I think that would be fun.
Okay, so I think Nina is a girl, maybe late teens, early mid-teens, something like that, with reddish hair, and she wears a red dress because red is a fun color. Nina likes red. She has, I think, bluish or greenish eyes, and they change color a lot, though. And freckles, lots of freckles.
Does she look girly, or is she sort of fashionable, or is she like a carryover of punk kind of look? Is it that,
it's kind of, no, I think she looks like maybe a carryover from the 70s, like very colorful clothing and a bit flowing, like.
Oh, yeah. All right. And then let's see here. what does Pixagon look like? Is he as his tabby cat side, or is he manifesting as a person?
And Pixagon manifests as a person only when it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Otherwise, I just maintain my cat form because, I mean, I'm a cat. Who'd want to be a human? I can climb and jump and I can run. I can hunt if I want to. Why show up as a human? But when forced, when I have to, I'll manifest as a very Irish-looking man, mid-20s, ginger hair, very pale skin, some kind of flannel checkered shirt, jeans, work boots, because at least that way people just figure Pixagon is some kind of Irish name and they don't even think twice about it.
Okay. And then I didn't write your name down, Scott.
Skip.
I'm sorry. What is right?
Skip is manifested as a 6-year-old boy. Of course, because he needs a mask, he's still wearing his more in the 80s, so it wouldn't be a Lone Ranger. So it's going to be a Batman costume, complete with a little those crummy plastic masks with the elastic band. He's just kind of running around like he's your child.
Okay. So yeah, it could be a real strange looking crew, can't it? Okay. That's awesome. All right, so we're out here at the pond, and essentially what we need to do is find the heart of the pond and the promises. So I think it is a pond. So actually, this is one of the places where Nina doesn't need to be a person or a balloon. She can be a fish if she wants. So do you want to swim, Nina?
Yeah, sure. I like to swim.
Okay.
Wee, swimming. Do you want to come?
And Monica would be standing there at the shore, like just barely keeping her balance. And she's like, maybe later. It's a little late in the season for swimming.
Oh, you could be, but you could be a fish too. Being a fish is fun.
And she goes, you're absolutely right. I will use that magic when we are done and we've found the promise.
Okay, cool.
And you can tell it's a promise to you.
I'm sorry? Yeah, cool. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
she's made a
Yeah.
promise to you.
Ooh, yes, fish. Being a fish. It's fun.
And then she'll say, come on, boys. And she's making to find that bridge. And essentially the whole thing is we are looking for things significant. We will test to find where the promise of Schaefer's Pond is.
Skip, do you know this territory? I mean, you're a raccoon. I mean, it seems like you'd know it better than I would.
Oh yeah, this is a great park. There's always kind of couples coming out here just to look at the lovely moon. You see it, and there's really great trash that people leave behind. Lots of people have picnics, and you would not believe the cheeses that they've left behind, and the breads, and even some fruit.
And Monica goes, do you think the promise is over in the park area as opposed to the pond?
Well, I mean, here on the bridge, it's. I mean, people come here and propose to their partners.
All right. And so I guess if we want to look for a thing, is that when we would roll the move, or do we avoid doing that and just?
So
Sure.
this is about you get to narrate where we go, and when
Okay.
you actually use magic is when we go to move to that. So we might get a sense of what Nina finds in the lake, check on that, and then we can kind of come back however you want to do that.
All right. Okay. Well, I think I'll ask each of my familiars to go and look for a thing that seems significant to them. I'll stay here on the bridge where my high heels aren't sinking in.
One of the interesting things about the park around Schaefer's Pond is that there's a champion tree in it. One of those really fantastically old trees that is big. It's huge. And normally they're not this close to a settled area. You have to go find these trees out in the wilderness. But for whatever reason, this tree, which is on a tree registry, is actually in the park. And people don't really pay much attention to it because they don't think about the trees that much. But a cat definitely knows about this tree. And that's the place that's most significant to me.
Okay. So it's like a big old pin oak or white oak?
I think it's a pin oak, yes.
Pin oak, okay. So very tall and probably very wide. Well, if it's a champion. Okay. So a pin oak. That sounds awesome. Certainly been around long enough to make promises and ask for said. Do you find anything, Nina?
I think I will find something in the depth of the lake. And I think what I'll find there is some sort of weird. I'm struggling now. Okay, I have ideas, but there are there. Sorry. I think there is an old fish, a lake fish. Help me with the names because my zoology terms are really sparse.
Pikes, if it's a
Yeah, pike. It's a pike, right?
All right.
There's an old pike that lives on the bottom of the lake, and that is a very curmudgeonly pike. Pikes aren't the friendliest fish anyways, and this one is like, you have to be really nice to it and very polite, extremely polite. But if you are, and Nina knows how to be polite, mostly, I guess, then the pike might reveal that at the bottom of the lake there is a kelp forest, and then within the kelp forest there is a large shell of something that lived there once, but it's a sort of not a snail. What are these things called that are like snails but have these houses? Are they snails? Yeah, okay. So there is a big snail, old, really large snail, house of a snail. And it's been there for a very long time. The snail is gone, but the pike used to know that snail, and the pike is guarding that house.
Okay.
So that nothing goes and moves inside there. Certainly not these whippersnapper eel kitties there. These are not for eels.
Okay. That sounds good. And significant. And is it Dexter? Got the name wrong. Scott, please say your familiar's name again. I am so sorry.
Skip or Skippy is fine.
Skippy?
Yeah, Skippy comes bounding over, excited. Monica, do you see that copse of trees over there? I can smell another raccoon in there. Maybe there's a girl. Maybe there's a lady raccoon. We should go check it out. What do you think?
And she goes, so you think there's a promise over there?
Well, maybe one day. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, but if we fell in love, there would be a very, very deep promise. Yeah.
Well, that's a point. And she kind of goes, will you ask her if she knows of a place?
I'm not a traditionalist. If she wanted to ask me, that would be fine.
No. Will you ask her what is important here in the park?
Oh, I could do that. Yeah. If we go over there, I could definitely ask her.
It's important that you introduce yourself and you have some small talk. So this is exactly the right way to do this.
All right. I'll ask her about herself and about where she lives and what's important here.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
You should probably also ask her what she likes to do.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Okay.
Should I tell her about all the things I like to do?
What if she asks?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. There you go.
I think I'm ready.
All right. I sent a little 7-year-old off to talk to a raccoon. All right. I will sort of totter behind him. I think understand that she does watch over them to some extent. So what happens?
Does somebody want to play a lady raccoon? Lol.
Sure. We'll assume that there is a lady raccoon of indeterminate age who is picking through the remains of a big a KFC bucket, getting the last little bits out of that, the last little extra crispy bitlets at the bottom.
Sure. Hi. I'm Skip. You've got a real treasure there. Hi. Oh, sure. I'm good.
Grips the bucket tightly.
Oh, I'm a raccoon too. I just look like a person right now because I'm with Monica. Do you see Monica?
Holds on to it, and so what do you suppose is can you just talk to animals? Can you hear animals? Both of you, how does that work?
I think she can understand Skippy. And so but she has to attune to the animal before she can understand the animal usually. So she's just staying well enough away so she's not threatening it. But she did hear Skippy say that, so she waves to reassure Skippy more than anything else.
Then this raccoon will look at Skip and we'll say they usually have brooms and rakes and sticks.
Oh no, she's with me. She came to well, I brought her to the park because I heard it was really pretty here. And so what's your name? My name's
May.
Skippy. May, that is a beautiful name. Oh no, I don't need any chicken. I ate. Over there in the park the other day when I was in my raccoon form, I found almost half of a loaf of Wonder Bread.
So is May? I mean, what do you think her reaction is to you, Skip?
I think he looks like a person to her, but he's chittering in like their language. So probably
So she's deeply suspicious of you.
Yeah.
Finally, like what is it you want?
So I'm going to use magic to change forms, or do I need to do that for us to change to our true selves, folks?
You
what
tell
do we
me.
think?
Well, I did it without using
Yeah, it
magic.
seems like that wouldn't want to be a freebie. So
Yeah. So you change into raccoon form and the raccoon. There's a moment of shock, but raccoons get over shock and surprise very quickly.
yep. This is a really pretty place you live in.
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
What's your favorite part?
And she'll point over to a bench, and it has two oil drum garbage cans by it. One of them has a crack in the bottom, and you can see muck leaking out. And she says, "That place is a fountain of delicious."
Oh my God. That place looks perfect. No wonder that's your favorite place. You're a very smart lady. So
Yes.
Tell me about yourself. What do you like to do when not scrounging for delicious treats?
And she will tell you about the range of places that are around here. The pond is good for washing your hands, and there's a bathroom over there, and it doesn't smell great, but sometimes they leave paper in there, and sometimes they leave stuff in the garbage cans there. And they used to have a vending machine out here, but it got broken into too many times. One time it got broken open and they left it open, and I was able to get in and get all of the deliciousness that was inside of it.
Did they have any Zag nuts? I love Zag nuts.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the one in the silver wrapper.
Oh yeah. She talks about that day like it was a holiday.
Wow, that's like the greatest day ever. Yeah. My friend Monica, the person, not the person raccoon, she's looking for a really important place in this park. It's kind of like the heart of the promise. Does that strike any memories, any chords? Is the green place that raccoons go on special dates to get married?
Sure, she'll know a place. What is the place that she can tell you?
How big of a park is this, Sherry? Are we talking? I mean, we're in the Midwest, so there's the possibility that it's like Central Park big.
It's one of those big places, a land grant from essentially a wealthy person for one of the city founders, So essentially it's a big swath of woods with a park, with the pond and amenities, and it was meant for the civic use. So
cool. I think this is like, I live in the DC area, so this is going to be like Rock Creek Park. So it's got a creek running through the middle, and then the kind of wild areas are just the areas that aren't as easily buildable. So I'm gonna say that it's going to be away from any of the buildings that people have built. So I think there's I'm stumbling on the word. I think there's an area that's it's some natural formation of rocks, and it's over in that area. I don't know what rocks would be in the Midwest. I'm an East Coast person. We're all granite out here.
There's plenty of that. The glaciers just dumped it into weird piles. That's what you get in the Midwest.
So I think it's that. It's like it's exposed rocky area, further away from and people probably go there and paint on it or whatever. This is 70s, 80s. It's definitely new, but there's no human structures there.
Yeah, and she'll certainly point you towards that space, giving you that third part of this promise.
Okay. Excellent. So I guess then that this is where we kind of do the ritual where we draw that triangle and we elicit like essentially what we have to do to honor the promise to keep this place. Like we have to renew the promises to keep this place safe. And then of course we still have to go to City Hall and protest, but that's, so we'll do that.
Does this seem like you're calling upon magic?
I think so. I think that's what we will do is try that first because we have to see what happens.
So let's try this roll. Let's see what happens from this. So here's the questions. Is this being used for the greater good?
I think so.
Are you and the familiars acting in harmony?
Feels like it.
Does this serve the goal of you?
Yes.
And does it serve the goal of the familiars?
Well, Skippy met a girl.
And I think renewing the promise would give hope and fight fears. So yeah, I guess it serves mine as well.
So let's say that the only one is a little bit off is Skip. So let's say you roll with a +3.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's see here. Oops. So that's a 7, a +3 gives me 10.
Okay. So tell me what that looks like, and then let's then we get to choose an additional benefit. So go ahead.
I think that it's one of the things is that all of the familiars are there at the places where the promise is, and essentially she's in the middle of the triangle, and she draws the triangle around herself again, and then again, like smaller and smaller until it's just where she is. And then through that smallest triangle, she sort of puts the sign for, like the promise, and casts to get that information. But it's also just even casting the information is that thing of that we will honor these promises. So it's like that promise asking for the promise terms. It's pretty binding. So, and essentially when she does it, essentially you see a breeze blow out from that middle part, and it goes out in a big circle. And if you're watching it from above, you see sort of this thing where the circle breeze comes out from that point, and then reaches those points of the triangle all at the same time and stops right there.
And you get to choose an additional benefit, and that is a blessing is received, a token of assurance manifests, or magic makes its own desires known to all.
I think this time Sabine will choose which one it is.
Sorry, what? I was looking at gingers with shirts on, sorry. Sorry, what am I going to choose?
So she's gotten the blessing of the place, but because of the roll, there's an additional benefit, and it can be that a blessing is received, a token of assurance manifests, or magic makes its own desires known to all.
Oh, I like the last one.
And what does the magic want?
I think the magic wants to be present, I guess. Just be more present, to suffuse the area with its glamour.
Ah. So the magic is asking to be more manifest and present.
Yes.
That's what it
yes.
wants.
Yeah, that's what it wants.
And so you got this promise, and you can tell that this area wants more.
Okay. She goes, well, then we have to put together an event. We have to put on a show. No. but she does say that, and she goes, no. We have to put on an event. Like a protest thing. Maybe a concert?
Yeah, concert with fireworks and birds singing, stuff like that. I like that.
All right.
How are you going to make sure that the people clean up after themselves, that the fireworks don't damage the trees?
And
magical fireworks.
I mean, we'll figure all that stuff out. That's not a problem. Can May come with me is the important thing. Would I be able to bring May to the concert?
I'm sure.
Everyone's invited.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we'll
we-
definitely get the place cleaned up, but I mean, let's
Yeah.
make sure we have our priorities straight, everyone.
I mean, Skip, you and your friends, I'm sure, could clean up probably any garbage left behind.
We can't take that paint off the rock. And that's some pretty vulgar stuff up there. Goodness.
Well, you know what? I can take on my human form and I can go clean that stuff up. If that's what you need to get you and your friends to clean things up after this concert, I'll do that for you.
Well, what if, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, people like to save pretty places more than ugly places.
They do.
What if there was a park cleanup before the concert?
Oh, and then we can say it's an environmental thingy and ask them to clean up and bring, I don't know, bags or stuff like that. Or
And then have a band play kind of as a reward at the end of the day.
Yeah, and honestly, the cleaner this park is, the more space my kids will have, me and May's kids.
But do you have kids already? That was
Well, I just, I always get ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
I would
Sorry.
have loved to see your kids.
Well, maybe you can put in a good word with May.
Oh, I have no idea how to do that, but I will.
It's all right, Skip. You got this. I believe.
Like the conversation went very well. So we stop and reassure him that probably a pretty good chance.
And I'm pulling Monica aside and saying, "Hey, Monica, I is that? I mean, Kenny, is he old enough? Skippy, I mean, to have kids? I thought you had to be older."
Well, his raccoon self is old enough.
Oh, okay, cool.
I thought, Monica, weren't you supposed to go on a swim with Nina?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, fishy form.
All right.
And I'm moving away slightly from Pixagon, as I always do when I have my fishy form on.
Nina, you know I'm not going to do anything. I mean,
You're a cat. You have
look.
instincts. I'm not trying to get you into trouble, and me.
I
because I'm
understand, but it's
I'm
more
stinging.
fun just to like watch you in your tank when you're not in the wild and everything like that. That's
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think Monica will honor her promise. And
I can introduce you to the pike. You need to be very, very polite to him. He's very cranky.
okay,
But you should meet him anyway because of the promise that was made by him and to him and, well, with the snail.
I will gladly go and pay my respects.
Cool.
All right. And the bathing suits of the 80s were awesome too. So this is excellent.
They had ruffles.
Yeah, ruffles and huge patterns. So, and then none of them stayed up well because they hadn't worked out that technology that people actually wanted things that stayed on you. So,
At least they didn't have shoulder pads.
yeah, everything else did though.
I remember that.
Okay, yeah, and she'll go swimming even though it's fall and kind of cold. So, I mean, the water's cold.
Mm-hmm.
The temperature isn't yet. And her perm will be devastated for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. So yeah, and again, so what is everybody doing? Where do we go from here?
I think that we have to go through all the things that we promised. We have to essentially file paperwork. We have to, and then we have to plan an event, and we have to reach out to some of the environmental groups. And I assume actually, if there are pike in that lake, we want to reach out to sportsmen too, because they're probably out here fishing and all of those things. So we are going to begin our activist routine.
question about the lake or the
Yes.
pond, as you'd called it. Is it big enough to have actual boat docks where sports people take boats out?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's probably a little, public thing where you can drive up and drop your motorboat off. And
Okay. I didn't know if it was like a paddle boat kind of lake or if it was an actual boat kind of lake.
So it is probably let's see here. It's probably because it is like one of those fingerling lakes. I don't know if you're familiar with those. It's more like there's like sets of channels and stuff like that. A smaller boat, like you wouldn't go water skiing in it.
Of course not. But you could have like a boat with a small motor that you could go.
Yeah, exactly. You can go fishing with. You can have a bass fishing boat kind of thing.
Okay.
And that would be what you would see mostly, something that moves slowly.
And then I'm assuming that this is a catch and release location where you're not allowed to actually take fish.
That's usually a conservatory. So there's probably, I mean, it could be. I was
looking at Sabine's comment in the.
No, it's fine. That's mostly Nina. That she doesn't like fishing because why do you do that to the poor fish?
Well, there's sunfish and all of those, and you got to keep their population down. So
she understands that on a mostly intellectual level. Yeah, that's cycle of nature and stuff like that. But she still doesn't like it. Poor worms.
The poor worms. A good consideration. Yes, that's true. So, but we do want people who are friends of the park and friends of the promise. And sometimes those are people who put pressure on the promises.
Yeah, so I won't go talk to the fishy people, okay? Because but I can talk to the environmental guys. I like them. And I think they might like me.
That sounds good. And then, so you'll go talk to them, and let's see here, Pixagon.
Since Nina said that she doesn't feel comfortable talking to the sporting people, well, I mean, I guess I can go do that. I mean, I'm a cat. I know a thing or two about hunting.
Yeah, you know a thing or two about sport too, so that makes sense.
Well, I know about catching strings, but sure, let's call that sport.
Okay, that sounds good. And Skippy. Do you want to help arrange the band?
Oh yeah, that's totally up my alley. I'll always support the local music scene, so I think I can get this done.
Okay, all right then. And I'll go handle the paperwork. So each of us we have our scenes that we're going to do.
Who should we start with?
I think Skippy. Skippy knows what he wants to do.
So give us the story, Scott, of Skippy going and arranging the band, and if there's a point at which magic needs to be brought to bear.
Skippy is going to go to a couple of gigs, a couple of shows that night, bouncing around the various clubs.
And let me ask you this, just for personal clarification: as a raccoon, as a 6-year-old boy, as something else?
No, he's gonna go. He's gonna go as an adult, but he's also going to use magic to give himself some musical skill.
All right. Do you think this magic is being used for the greater good?
Yeah, I think so, because this was the goal that Monica set me up to do.
Are the magic user and familiars acting in harmony?
Yes.
Okay. Does this serve the goal of the magic user?
Yes.
Does it serve the goal of you, the familiar?
Not so much.
Okay. So you're going to roll with a +2.
I'm probably in the wrong roll for your party, but
It's okay.
I rolled an 8 + 2, 10.
10. So you get to narrate what that looks like and choose an additional benefit. A blessing is received, a token of assurance manifests, magic makes its own desires known.
I think a blessing is received.
Okay.
And it's received in the form of the polymorph. I actually look like a local music promoter now. I was just going to go for a musician, but instead I actually look like this local music promoter.
Okay.
And did I pick a second one? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
So you get your basic effect and then the additional benefit. So you wanted to have some musical talent. So you look like somebody that they respect and know.
Yeah, who's set stuff up before.
So that succeeds. So tell us what is the montage or the scene that we see there?
Sure. Folks, what is the dominant music on our local scene? It's the 80s. So unless we're in a big
Midwest,
it most likely wouldn't be rap yet, unless we were in Chicago. It'd be local punk bands. There's a possibility.
Yeah, local punk bands and local wannabe sort of the new wave sound.
Right.
But garage sound. So
Yeah,
that
a lot
sort
of Stray Cats clone bands. And,
exactly.
or
yes, I'm going to go. Actually, yeah. So let's just say there's a big rockabilly scene.
Yeah.
There you go.
On post Stray Cats, and I think the Revolvers were already out. They just never got as big. So yeah, I'm going to go dressed in my 1950s-ish outfit like a music promoter. So I've got the suit that you would suspect, but it's a very cool, tight cut suit, narrow labels. I look like a hipster. I've got the hair, and we go from club to club, kind of lining up some acts, and let's see. So I mean, I'm a sleazeball, right? It's a music promoter.
Mm-hmm.
So no part of the persona that I have is actually pleasant, even pleasant for me to wear. I mean, I'll eat trash, but I'm not going to be trash. And let's be honest, the music promoter is always making more money than the acts. So, but yeah, I think I go. I keep saying club, but they would just be music venues. They wouldn't be like nightclubs. Some might have I guess in the Midwest, every place would have a bar. DC was the only place that had a big culture of all ages, I think. So
there was one all ages.
Yeah, we had a local scene that was like everything all ages. But that was unique to us. So, but yeah, and at the end of the night, I actually feel really dirty, and I am going back to that lake and washing off. Okay. Because while the magic did what I wanted it to do, the price to pay was having to be a sleazeball all night. But I think I think I'll line up a couple of acts for the show, maybe 3. Okay. We're going to need some band names. So Hip Bone Makeout.
Yes.
And if we're going to have Stray Cats ripoff, somebody's got to have cat in their name or feline.
The Tommy Cats.
Ooh, that's awesome. That is really cool. The Tommy Cats. And then so we'll need somebody's name and a noun. What should that be? That was a common thing in the 50s. So let's see. What would be a cool sounding name?
Maybe something with Andy Warhol in it.
Andy and the Warhols.
Okay.
So we got our 3 bands lined up.
All right. So what's the next scene we want to see?
Let's see here. How about why don't we have Pixagon go to the wall forest, go to the map forest.
Okay. So Pixagon, tell us what you do and how you use magic to help here.
Well, I'm already using magic because I'm obviously my human form. I mean, what hunter is going to listen to a cat?
Right.
But I'm decked out in my best hunting gear, which is not really good hunting gear. I don't need a lot of it. But you know, it's like I got a long sleeve flannel shirt on, got the vest on, I've got the jeans on, the hat on, little dip of skull in my cheek. And I'm going around to the hunting organization, the fishing organizations, you know, the deer hunters, and just basically everybody pointing out that we need to protect these wild areas because specifically for the fishermen, for the people who fish, if a private enterprise takes over this area or has any say on what to do with it, you know, you're going to have pollution in the lake. You're not going to be able to go fish with your kids because God forbid you get your hand in the water. You're not going to eat anything you catch. So you can't provide for your family or take them out and show them the value of catching a fish and then having a nice meal from it that night. And then for the hunters, just pointing out that who's going to stand up for them if people can't go fish out here anymore? If they're having to drive, you know, to the next county over or even the next state to go fishing, you know, when this starts happening to their hunting areas, who's going to help them out? And so I'm just trying to point out to them that the shared common interest that we all have in keeping this area public and how we all benefit from it.
So the magic isn't needed to transform. We've established that to just go to your human form.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, tell us if it works. The negotiations. Does that succeed? Are there problems?
I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. I mean, especially the people who fish know that, you know, at the very least they might have, I mean, the best case scenario is they can go wherever they want, but there might be pollution. The worst case scenario is it's restricted access and they have nowhere to go. They have to drive a couple hours away to go fishing. So I think the fishing pier, the people who fish are on board with it. I think the hunters can see the thrust behind the argument that if the people who fish go, there's not going to be anybody to stand up for them and so on. And, you know, people who just enjoy being in the park and the outdoors also see the wisdom in that because they know it's likely to become a place where the water would be polluted and that gets into the ground. And the next thing you know, you have mutant trees growing out of the ground and attacking the children and they can't play there anymore. And that's if the park doesn't get shut. That's if it doesn't get closed down. So.
Yeah, so we've got the band lined up. You've got the environmentalists on your side. We'll agree to you. So what's next?
He's got the hunters.
Oh, sorry, the hunters and the
the
fishermen.
sportsmen. He's got
Sportsmen.
the sportsmen lined up because Nina handles the environmentalists.
So Nina, tell us about the environmental scene, who you have to talk to, and if you have to use magic to get what you want here.
I'm pretty young looking in my human form, so I might have to use a bit of magic to change that because I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I could Greta this out because I'm a future generation. Wasn't a thing in the 80s, but still, I mean, there were kids who were aware that the future was looking not so very well. And I think I'm going to try that at first. And what I'm going to do is not just the environmentalists, but I will try peace activists because
Okay.
that was a huge thing, peace activism and the fear of the bomb and stuff like that. And getting these on our side, that would be very, very helpful. And they are aligned with the environmentalists anyway. So what I will do is I want to talk to the environmentalists about the whole, we have to look, this park is in danger. There are private sector people trying to take it over. And I've heard that they might try to put some nuclear waste on it. I have not heard that, but it seems like that would provoke people into action more than anything. And anyway, who knows where companies put their nuclear waste, right? And then it will start glowing, and people will get cancer, and the trees will mutate. And we should. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to make a little festival, a clean fest. like we go and clean the park, and after we've done that, then we'll have a band or two, I guess, and yeah, some barbecue maybe, and we will then gather up the trash that we produce there. But we'll make it clear that this area is just for the people, like that we will start fighting and that we will raise a huge fuss.
So are you regretting it, or do you need to change to do this? What do you think
I think I need to change a little bit to be more persuasive. I need to be a grown up. I guess the whole I'm 13 and worried about my future. In the 80s, that wasn't a thing. So I will need to. So I will need to be a grown up now, which is strange.
Okay.
But I will do it. I will use magic to do that, I guess.
Is the magic you're using for the greater good?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And you're acting in harmony with the magic user?
Hopefully.
Okay. Does this serve the goal of the magic user?
Yeah.
And the goal of the familiar?
Yep, mine very, very much so.
Oh, yeah. Then you roll with a +4.
Oh my gosh. I rolled a 7. It's an 11.
Okay. So tell us what that looks like if you change, and you're going to get a blessing, a token of assurance, or magic makes its own desires known. What do you think?
I think what I want to have is a token of assurance. Like, I think what that looks like is that when I'm there and talk to people, for some reason the headlines in the newspapers they change a bit, like to like acid rain in the Midwest is it a thing, what do we do on, and keep up conservation thingies, stuff like that. It's not very on the nose, but if you look at the newspaper, then you'll find, oh my gosh, I have to do something, and this might be a thing. So,
and so do you think overall that this works? Is everybody in on this?
I think yes, it will work because it's a nice idea. These people are local people. These aren't. This is not like you're in a big city and you're telling them the park over there is in danger and they've never been to the park. No, these people know the park we're talking about, and they care, I guess, that it's still there and that it won't get polluted by nuclear stuff, and that of course fires up the peace activists, and because anyway peace is good, and cleaning up and bringing people together is good, and that's what I'm trying to do, not just to do the environmental stuff, but to bring people together, to give everybody a bit of focus and hope.
Yeah. So you do it. You get them organized. We see the montage. What does she look like in this adult form?
She looks a lot like an adult version of the little girl, like still red hair. There are a lot of she wears with a lot of braids, and she has woven lots of stuff into the braids, so it looks kind of almost lionfishy, those braids. When she moves her head quickly, then they will fly out and like those lionfish veil thingies.
Nice. And so then that brings us to you, Sherry. Tell us what Monica does.
Oh, Monica, essentially you will see Monica, and she's going into the county city building, and there's that thing in the 80s where all the shoes were designed to make like sort of the maximal amount of noise when they hit marble. There's this, click, 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 click as she goes, and she has that very very solid sound, like you hear her and it's more than anyone else's. It is like her steps are the dominant steps that you can hear as people are crossing the thing, and she is making a beeline for essentially the counters that she needs to go to, and it is she has the paperwork, she's already gotten it signed, she puts it down in front of the people, and essentially everything that she needs to manifest is called to that. So eventually all of the people like that represent those departments that are going to have to handle the essentially the motion to stop or block this land transfer and all of those things, they all end up down there. Like they get called that something's up and they're all down there. And then she, like, so when she actually goes to sign the paper before registering it, all of them are there to witness it. And when
Is that require magic to do that, or is that just mundane skill?
Probably in some ways magical spillover, but we could do it as a magical thing.
It's up to you.
Let's do that, because it is essentially the promise of stopping this, right?
Okay. So used for the greater good.
Okay.
You're acting in harmony.
I think so.
It serves your goal.
It does.
It certainly serves the goal of your familiars.
Yes.
So roll with a +4.
Okay. Oh my gosh, a +4?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Do I have the right? Yeah, I have lately adapted bluebird, which is different.
It's the lionfish.
Flying fish. I got a 10 because +4 is egregious.
Okay.
So I got lately adapted bluebird. So I don't know what I opened up. I'll go to that one next. Sorry.
So it works, and you will receive a blessing, get a token of assurance, or magic makes its own desires known.
I think that she's sort of surprised because magic makes its own desires known. And here we are, we're in this place of just marble and paperwork and promises and contracts and agreements and all of these things. And essentially the question is, essentially what comes back up is, but we need a success. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what comes back, is that stopping this is a thing, but they need a success. So
absolutely,
it's that sort of thing of all of the city is like they need something.
The city is dying. It's not just a question then of the park protecting it. It's that this is kind of a beating heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all four of you succeed and get the pieces together. So where do we want to go from here? Do we go to the day of the thing? Do we want to narrate that? How do you want to handle this?
I think maybe something happens at the thing. Maybe the corporations, they send some people to stir up trouble or something like that.
So what does that look like? We're on the day of the event.
What's a suggestion?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if everybody's all right with that.
Yeah.
I could see it that there would be people who wanted this to get sold going, oh, but having, townhouses and nice neighborhoods and a golf course would expand the amenities for the community. And essentially talking about, that this would attract businesses and that sort of thing. There's shallow lies, trickle down lies.
I'm okay with the idea of people showing up trying to cause trouble or stir things up, because that would give me an excuse to shift into my cat form. and go to town.
It is true. So yes,
And
I
who
think
doesn't like watching corporate toadies get attacked by a big tabby?
This is the 1980s, so there are plenty of film references for the corporations hiring people to break things up in an absurd way,
It's
and
true.
and joining forces with the person who wants to build a subdivision to build the houses there.
Is this going to end up with a group of people hired to breakdance at the event to kind of scare people, winding up breakdancing to rockabilly? That feels like a very 80s movie.
Well, it's your story. So what do you want to do for the scenes of this? What happens?
Yeah. Sounded like you had a sense of things, Bucket, so let's hear it.
I have a sense of absurdity. I'm not sure that I have a sense of things. I think more seriously, what I would like to see is people showing up on the day of the event to start cleaning. Maybe there's corporate lawyers there protesting and trying to point out papers that indicate that there shouldn't be this kind of event occurring. It might be something that Monica needs to step in and help resolve, because this sounds like paperwork. This sounds like it's something that's right up her alley, and it's the corporation's first attempt to stop this.
That sounds good. So essentially, I assume that they would be there like at the gates claiming that we couldn't hold the event. And there would be like, all the people that had gathered around and everything. And I think Mana would come up and say, well, we can't charge for an event, but we haven't charged for the event. And I said, there's a long tradition of community picnics. That's what this is. And I'll turn to one of the guys that's is a executive at one of the businesses that's here, but one that's been here for a long time, and says, company picnic for Schul's has been held out here for years. You've never paid a dime for it. And I said, more people than we've got here. And he said, of course, we can call the papers and you can tell them that you don't want people to come out and clean the park. If you would like that, I would happily call the reporters. And she simply just kind of lets them decide what they're going to, how far they're going to push her, because she's got all of those people behind her. So, Puckett, do you want to be the adversary? What will they try to do?
I think, and this is usually the case with bullies, given public shame and the numbers staring them down, I think they're going to wilt and kind of slink off to nurse their wounds and try to figure out what they can try to do next to disrupt things. And I'm sure part of that will be a noise complaint over the concert.
Excellent. That sounds good. All right, we'll get everyone in there. And this should actually kind of excite everyone, because we did push all of them aside. So we've got that first breath. So we'll get everyone situated. I don't think we have the band people here yet, though, right? That would be first. We have a lovely cleaning the park kind of day and enjoying that. And then we set up for the bands and stuff. So
maybe one way to handle this would be to kind of montage and have each person kind of narrate sights and sounds and pieces of the event, so we can see how it goes off.
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. That's my suggestion. I'll leave it in your guys' hands. Y'all's hands, sorry.
Y'all's hands.
All right, I've got a scene, a real quick one. So a group descends, and this is hardcore rockabilly fans. So if you will, picture the cast from Sha Na Na times about a 10. So women in those kind of 50s awesome dresses actually were pretty cool, but with the bows in the hair and big bows and dresses with big hips and guys with their hair greased in some fashion, whether back or just slightly up, but it's all, pretty great. They've got their jeans are definitely folded way up, so you can see their white socks. And this group goes to town on I think they're gonna start taking some of their graffiti off. They're gonna work on that. Yeah, the Ken Burns. For the stream that can't read the chat, the Ken Burns documentary, the pomade supply in the United States had reached critically low levels. And the next person can give a scene.
I think Nina will spend the most of the day skipping between different groups of people who are doing cleanup work, but then some of them, they don't know, is that what are we supposed to, are we supposed to weed out the weeds? Like, is this plant, should that plant be here? And because I think invasive species wasn't a huge topic in the 80s, and since I'm a lionfish, I don't mind invasive species anyways. So I'm like, no, let all the plants be here, let everything be alive and prosper. Just pick out the plastic stuff. That plastic stuff is bad. And I'm skipping over to the next group and trying to get everybody to, well, get this right. Like, no, please don't trample through the brushes here because you're destroying everything. Just look, you can walk around this. And kind of shepherding these folks in a good natured way, though. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I think what I'm doing is the rocks with the graffiti on them were the point that May had pointed out to Skippy as being like a really important part of the park, correct? Okay, just wanted to double check that. In that case, I'm wandering around with I don't even know what you call them, but they're like those little mini spears that people poke with to pick up trash.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wandering around with people who have nets because we're trying to make sure that this is, we're using as few resources as possible. So we're not running around with plastic trash bags or anything. We're using nets and we're putting plastic cups and plates and things, any kind of garbage we can see and we can spear, just picking it up, aerating the soil as we do so. So that's helpful. And tossing it into this little net and taking it over to the collection point when it gets too full. Dump it out.
If you could save some of that food, the food trash, maybe collect that separately. Just saying, it's that's treasure.
Well, what you see Pixman doing is anytime there's like a partially full Burger King wrapper or something like that, kind of surreptitiously dumps it out and kind of kicks the burger parts underneath the nearest bush. So, because that's biodegradable. You know, it's not like anybody's going to notice a half-eaten burger into a bush.
Yeah, and the follow-up montage scene is as the humans are taking their break. Skippy goes and gets May and organizes a raccoon posse, and we sweep the areas of the park where those food stashes that have been so strategically left for us, making sure that that trash is getting well loved in the best possible way. We are full and fat very quickly.
And Monica?
Yeah, I think one of the things that she's doing is she's gone around to the DNR guys, essentially, and the sportsmen and stuff like that, and she's saying, hey, this park is really an excellent place for fishing. There's a lot of wildlife and stuff out here. We should arrange like monthly uh, public meetings to like tour the place, take them to show them, where not where the fishing is, but you show them the natural resources, what keeps this pond, this lake so clean, where the springs are, and essentially starts to try to get some of these people to arrange ongoing commitments to the park and starts those conversations, if that makes any sense.
So it sounds like the day goes well, leads up to
The evening.
the evening, the band's playing.
There's one thing that I'd kind of like to do before.
Yeah.
What if the four of us, as like the cleanup is kind of coming to a close, all went back to our positions to use some magic to make the park appear perhaps even a little more beautiful than it actually is. Like, so it, almost like it's like, when you wax a car after you wash it and it kind of sparkles. So everybody can see like kind of a slightly magically enhanced version of the work that they had done and how it brightened things up.
So sort of as the sun is going down to
Yeah.
catch that sort of magical
Like magic
moment.
hour. Yeah.
Mhm. Sure, we can do that. Set the stage for the festivities for the evening.
So does that sound like we go to a magic roll?
Yes. We are very good at engineering these, so we all have maximal thing. I think Puckett hasn't rolled yet, so it makes sense for him to roll.
So
Well, I'm okay with you rolling. I mean, you're the magician.
Puckett, is magic being used for the greater good?
Yes.
Acting in harmony?
Yes.
Serve the goal of the magic user?
Yes.
And serve the goal of familiar?
I'm thinking yes for everybody. I mean,
Okay. So let's have you roll with a +4.
can you believe I managed to get a 9?
So this probably requires a little more taxing. The magic is cast, but there's a complication of some kind. A painful secret is revealed, an important bond is broken, or something precious is lost. What do you think?
I'm thinking. Oh,
Go
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sherry,
Puckett.
you started to say something.
No, so did you, and I think go ahead and say that. We can negotiate. There's no problem.
I think something precious might be lost because it sounds like perhaps we needed just a little bit more horsepower to get it done. And Pixelmon realized this and offered up his ability to transform into being a human to make sure it went off without a hitch.
Okay. So you're choosing an additional complication?
Well, I'm not sure if that's a
something precious
complication
is
or
lost.
precious is lost or,
Okay.
I mean, Lowell, how would you, I mean, first of all, Sabine, you also had something that you were going to say?
No, I thought the same thing. Precious lost sounded like a good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
So
and then-
go ahead.
No. So you were thinking of giving something up?
Right. Pixelman's ability to transform from a cat into a human.
Ooh,
Just to power it, to give it that little extra nudge and that extra little bit of extra power.
What does that look like?
I think that looks like Pixelman in human form getting a worried look on his face because I can tell something's not quite right. And then thinking you can see my eyebrows furrow for a moment. And then there's this kind of understanding that washes across my face, and I shift back to cat form. And there's something not unlike a heat shimmer, but it's not that hot, so why would there be that? And then all of a sudden there's just an orange tabby standing there, looking around, has a ring on its tail. I'm Mew.
no. I think we all feel it too. Yeah, I'll feel that sort of pushback from that point of the triangle where Hexaman was at. And then we feel at ease again, and we know something's changed there. So you're over at the big oak. I think Monica runs over there to find you. And she'll pick you up, which she usually doesn't do. She usually super respects your autonomy as a cat. But yeah, she picks you up and puts you on her shoulder and sort of pats your back for a bit. Not sure if she's reassuring you or herself. There.
I could have gone. Now, teensy bit better. But, I like having a tail. Having a tail to flip is important because my tail's often angry enough for both of us.
She goes, it's a beautiful tail.
It's all right.
But we turn back and we look at the sunset, and it is gorgeous beyond reckoning. And it's reflected in the pond, but the pond also has ripples in it. So there's a sparkle of its own that's coming from that. And even though it's still daylight out, the moon is starting to peek out. It's one of those days where you can see the moon before the sun's down, and it's sort of low on the horizon, and it's going to be kind of giant tonight.
Feels like we're in a fairy wonderland. Yeah, this is a good trade.
You are muted, Lowell.
I think we're at that kind of the bands play. You've got the concert. The day has been magnificent. We're in that end time. What is each of your parts in, and what is that sort of high point of the finishing of this ritual to seal this thing that you want? What does that look like? We've got music here, which is something we know is tied to the familiars, is tied to the magic, and you've brought a band in. So
yeah, and I think there's a thing of they're doing the rockabilly, and there's a point where for some reason the power goes out, and here's all these people out in this park, and it gets really dark, and the people on stage can't see where they are, and the people in the audience can't see anything. And then you hear some kind of laughter and fumbling around from the stage, and someone pulls out a guitar and they start to play again, but acoustically. And then sort of in the sky behind, it's super dark out there because there's no lights and everything. And the stars just get very, very bright, and you can see them, so well, and they go so deep. And then there's, essentially they're singing songs, and then like there's a falling, shooting star, and everyone in the crowd sees it. How's that?
Others want to add on to the moment there?
I just want to say that there are these stars, they are reflected in the waters. Now the waters are a bit ripply all the time, but that just means that the light gets distributed. It looks this looks magical because there's these tiny lights, but the whole water is kind of silvery and kind of glowing softly.
I imagine that we might see like the old pike at the surface of the water, like the little head kind of poking out and watching all of this, overcoming the curmudgeonliness. Anyone else want to add on to this?
You can hear the wind blowing through the leaves in the trees. And it almost sounds like music. And it's just a nice breeze. It's like, maybe 5-10 miles an hour out of the east. It's not too cold, but it's making the leaves ripple just enough that it almost sounds like a song.
And I think that breeze is, it makes it just cool enough that those with a partner, including Skippy and May, just cuddle a little closer while they listen to the song in the light of the stars and at the full moon.
And that sounds like the ritual completed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the success. And I think that's the story that we've told. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, and I think what happens is that when the power comes on, what comes on first is the lamps along the road out of the park. And because that's the first light that you see, it looks like a very long road.
Oh, that's perfect.
Nice. Let's do a little epilogue. Maybe a moment or a scene or something else you want to say about your characters in light of this major success, or your relationship to the magic user or to the familiar. Let's start with a Puckett. What do we see of Pixagon in the sort of the aftermath of all of this?
Well, I'd kind of like to narrate something involving Skippy, if that's okay, Scott.
Yep.
I think you see a charmingly exasperated, but still smiling and happy Pixagon babysitting a litter of raccoon kits for Skippy. And, the kits are climbing all of them. He's kind of like, he's acting grumpy, but you can tell he's actually kind of happy and excited about it.
And it makes sense to shift to Skippy. What do we see of you in this last bit?
Yeah, I think I'm still in service to the magic user, but as often as I can, you see Skippy stealing away, whether it's at night when Monica's sleeping, to spend time with May, and since I guess maybe like the heart of the city repositions itself to this park now, there's starts to be a little more opportunities for us raccoons outside of the park to go a cleaning behind you messy people.
Nice. Nina, what about for you?
I think we see Nina in the park in her human form with her feet splashing in the water. looking out. We can see the pike swimming around, and he still looks grumpy, but maybe not so much anymore. And she's talking to some school kids maybe, and telling them that, yeah, there's a pike, and if you see him, that means that one of your wishes will come true. And then she will ask all of them, these kids, for their wishes. And then one of them, those kids, looks back at her and says, and what's your wish, miss? And Nina says, well, my wish is, it's just for this day, this park, to stay a good memory and to remain the way it is and give hope to people like you and me and everyone.
And Monica, what about you? Muted.
You see the door to the county city building, and it's just a camera tracking along, and you can hear her heels, and it's just her heading down towards that counter again. And it's like, it's a very long walk. Yes,
Absolutely.
that's it.
All right. I'm going to stop recording, and we'll do a little debrief if you all don't mind.